waiting. So somehow it went down.
I'm gonna tweet it now, which means it's all
Oh, there
about
we go.
me.
Yeah, please
Then it'll
tweet.
be like
Please tweet.
I think that
millions.
it's clearly my fault that we are not doing well.
Well, not doing as well. I wouldn't go as far as to say we're not doing well.
Our advertisers are going yeah.
We have advertisers.
There's no one in. Oh, there's one person in the chat. 2 people. Oh, Brian, he can see me. Are we
I
live?
tweeted it.
Oh,
I'm taking
we're
full
live.
credit.
Yeah, we're
Sorry.
live.
God, this 2-stage live thing is tripping me up now.
Why would anyone buy a flamethrower?
Oh, you know how many people here have bought flamethrowers?
But why? It's
I
not
don't
even a flamethrower. It's really just a big propane thing that
Every
shoots
time
this
I'm
far.
walking around this hat, and everyone's like, "Have you bought the flamethrower?" I'm like, "It's not a flamethrower. It's a
To
butane
do
torch on
what?
an airsoft rifle." And they're like, "I know, but it's fun." I'm like, "No, I don't need a butane torch on an airsoft
Why
rifle."
did he do it?
Okay? Do you know why?
Is it plastic?
No, it's real. So
didn't
it's
ask
not
if it
a
wasn't real.
flamethrower. Let's be clear. It's a torch on the end of an airsoft rifle. Okay, so it's not a flamethrower.
That's why I
shoots
asked if
flames.
it was plastic.
No, it's not flammable. It's an airsoft rifle. Still,
But it
made
sounds
out
like
of-
a good dangerous thing that people will then hurt someone with in the world. Like someone's
No
going to
more
torch
than-
someone with it.
but no more than the airsoft rifle itself, or anyone could take a can of something and put like a match in front of it.
Yeah,
and spray it.
valid
That's
point.
even worse.
But like someone's going to rob a 7-Eleven holding that thing.
It's a blowtorch. Like it's literally no worse than someone buying a blowtorch
So
from
you
Home
say
Depot
the
for
solution
$5.
is step back 2 feet? Is that this way?
But yeah, literally, like it's like a camping stove. Like if I held up a camping stove and robbed
What are we
7-Eleven with a
torching?
camping stove,
What are people going to torch with it? They're
Money,
gonna,
apparently.
you could
Sells them
kill
for
weed. You
500
could kill
bucks.
weeds with it. Like you could point it at a weed and it would burn the weed.
I'm
Right?
stealing that, John. That was genius.
But okay, so the reason he did it, like, do you know the Simpsons character who many people think Elon Musk has shaped himself on? No?
No.
I think his name was Zach. Who was it? He owned the other nuclear power plant that Homer went to work at. And it turned out he was an evil genius trying to take over the world. And at the end of the episode, he ran around with a flamethrower on his back and like torched the power plant. And
Wow.
you don't remember that episode? It was like in the 2nd season.
I don't watch The Simpsons.
Oh my god.
After about 30 seasons, I kind of fell behind.
Okay. So there is a famous GIF. You will know the GIF if you see it. If you do Simpsons flamethrower GIF, just search for that right now. And you will see the character I am referring to. Okay. Have you done that?
No.
You're not doing it?
now? Oh, all right,
I want you to
hang
do
on.
it now, so you understand this
Simpson
reference because you're like, why?
Flamethrower GIF.
Why is he
All right,
doing
hang
this?
on. Yeah, the Scottish guy.
No, that is not the Scottish guy.
He's like,
That's not the guy.
That is
that's
not.
Guilty
That is
McSworn.
not. That is not Groundskeeper Willie. No,
It's not.
dude, you were
Okay.
missing out. Like you watched Simpsons. Not Simpsons. You watched Seinfeld, right?
Oh yeah.
It's Hank,
You didn't
it's
watch
Hank
Simpsons.
Scorpio.
Who's Hank Scorpio?
Scorpio.
Hank
Anyway,
Scorpio.
he's a Bond villain who turned out was anyway. It was
very best of Hank Scorpio. Number
there is-
3 on the
there was-
24,
there was
25
a thing a
least.
while ago where people compared Elon Musk to this guy, and so I think this is where the whole "I'm going to make a flamethrower" came from. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Oh, I can now hear myself. That's great. Oop, turn that off. That's better.
That's good.
Anyway, how are we all? It's been a while since we've been together.
Are we?
Yeah, we what?
Are we what, all together?
Oh,
Like on the same page or just on the same
we can't even get a single sentence with a standard reply out anymore. It's like, I'm going to say something. Really? Is that really true, Damien? Welcome to the community stand-up, everybody. It is the original trio of hosts today. Some people may have noticed we've had some guests recently. I am unable to make the 10 o'clock Pacific time Tuesday slot these days because I have a very important meeting to go to. And so we've been using that to bring in a guest. And so we had Ryan, we had Steve, and then we had Ryan, I think.
Mm-hmm. People loved them. Very good shows. Yeah.
So, and with the 2.1 release announcement details imminent, we plan to have a lot more guests in that slot over the coming couple of months. In fact, there's a schedule floating around internally, which I'm going to work on publicizing on the website soon, hopefully. So people, various devs can come in and showcase the features they've been working on as part of the 2.1 release. So that'll be good. Every other week, you'll still have me in here doing the usual rubbish. But every other week, that's not that week. we'll do something a little more focused where we can show off a 2.1 feature. So yeah, hopefully people enjoy that. So it seems like we've had some good feedback on the last couple of ones. So. Oh, so Jeff is saying the flamethrower thing is a riff off the merchandising bit from Spaceballs. There you go. I like to think it's a combination of both those things. So who knows? But no, I'm not buying a flamethrower, Scott. You don't have to worry.
Well, this
Scott's
is
not into it today. He's just like, I'm not talking.
I think we're watching a video loop. You know how sometimes like that's like part of a heist movie. They'll have like a video on loop.
Now he's just going to keep playing up to it. He's just going to move. Like, we know his mic's working.
Are you talking to me?
Because I can hear like things rustling when he moves, but he's not saying anything.
Can you not hear me?
No, we can now.
Oh, okay.
Yes. You're not saying anything.
Oh, sorry. I was
usual.
looking for some interesting topics.
See what I said.
I actually looked into at one point having a video loop.
Who should I be blaming? If
can I show you a couple cool things first?
Please do.
So, okay, first, so you see I have my OpenFast t-shirt, openfast.com.
Okay.
This is the Open Functions as a Service. It's like, kind of like Azure Functions or Lambda, but it's open, which is cool. And then I've got I've got the Raspberry Pi cluster running.
Yes.
With a blinking lights.
Very nice.
This is cool because right now that pod is where that app is running. So if I pull the wire, it'll move to another pod.
I see.
It's cool.
Is the Amplify router part of that setup there?
It is, in fact. The Amplify router is the thing that provides the DNS to all of the Raspberry Pis. That way I can take it and demo it and stuff like that.
Okay.
That was what Alex Ellis and I showed at NDC London a couple weeks ago, and those videos should be out soon. And then the other thing I did last week is made this cool Raspberry Pi car.
Oh, I saw that blog post.
Yeah, it's cool. And it runs on a Raspberry Pi. Has a camera that you can like up, down, left, right, and look around and stuff.
Look.
It's got really proper, like so many of these. You see these wheels all the time, these robot wheels, and then you end up building a robot. You buy it from some cheap company, and they end up realizing it doesn't turn.
Yeah.
This actually has proper.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Like I don't know, you're a car person, but it's got that thingy that like the crossbar that makes it so it properly turns.
Yeah.
Which is very cool, and it even comes
steering thingies.
Yeah, steering thingies. That's the technical term, and it comes with a little Wi-Fi.
Nice.
Well, so I'm very happy with that. And it all runs .NET.
How many Pis do you have?
Raspberry Pis?
Yeah. Is there one running your cabinet, or is that a PC?
Interestingly enough, that is a shuttle PC, but below it is a tank stick.
Yes.
With a Raspberry Pi inside it. That one runs a Raspberry Pi. So that one's one.
Pis, right?
And then that's one.
Yes, I've seen that one. Okay.
That's one. And then this is a 3D printed Game Boy.
Okay.
With a Raspberry Pi inside.
Okay.
And that one runs, and it's got a screen, and I actually took apart a Super Nintendo controller and like put that in there. So that's 3, probably a dozen, I would say. My kid has a radio with a thing called Music Box on it, so in his bedroom he can listen to music on it, which is nice. Well, actually, no. Wait a second. If you count it's probably 15. If you count
7 there.
Yeah, 6 or 7. Probably.
Is there 15. One running your 3D printer?
Yeah, there's one inside the 3D printer that runs Octoprint.
Yep.
There's probably a solid dozen.
Didn't you have one to do with your garage door or something as well?
Yeah, the one that tells me whether the garage door is open or not. Although that one's totally overkill.
Okay.
I redid that one as an Arduino later.
I see. Okay.
Because sometimes you don't need a full instance of Linux to text you when the garage door is open.
Apparently not. Apparently, even if it is only a $35 PC.
Yeah, but you can do it with a $10 Arduino.
That's fair enough. Wow, that's a lot of Pi. Cool. That is some cool stuff. I don't have anything like that to show because I'm in a boring office. No, sorry. I don't have anything I can show you. I have a hat and I'm wearing 2 watches again. Someone noticed last week. They said,
that is good.
Someone noticed for the first time in a meeting. They said, why are you wearing 2 watches? And I went, been there, mate. I'm not going to go through all that again. Go and watch the video.
Go look at the website.
Go look at the website. Exactly. I think it's still up.
I got a, what is it? Oh, it's on.
We can't tell. It's just like, because your video is so bad, we literally can't tell what that is.
I haven't tried turning it off and on again. I have a question for you. Will it get better when I share my screen?
This potato that's talking sounds like John Galloway.
A little bit like John.
Is this viewable?
I love that we're teasing him for something he has no control over.
Still don't see anything.
I know.
Are you trying to share, Scott?
Maybe I could remote into John's machine and then share it.
Oh, can you lock yourself on, John? Because we're not seeing you.
There you go. I'm just going to... John, you need to lock and present to everyone.
There we go.
I swear he pulls the URL bar of his Chrome over to troll us with the number of...
I'm just seeing a black screen.
Are you serious?
Yep.
He's also stopped talking.
It's working. There it goes. Came up finally. It's working on the live feed.
Anyone else?
I can see it now.
No, it's such a mess.
All right. John loves community. This potato loves community.
Yeah. Just for people asking on the chat, we did a check. I'm getting 120 megabit upstream.
It's lies. Are you by any chance remoted in? Are you VPN'd in?
No.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I got.
No, nothing.
Okay. Do you want to send me your one link or whatever, and I'll open all these 11 tweets?
Yeah, look at my last one. I tweeted it earlier today.
No, what I'm saying is, can I open these tabs and you talk about them?
So I'm watching I'm watching the live feed on YouTube.com, and it seems to be flicking between what you're presenting, John,
it's
and
going
the logo.
back and forth between the logo. It's not even working.
Like there's something wrong with I'm seeing what you're presenting in the Hangouts video up here, but the YouTube, it's flipping in and out between the logo and...
Yep. It is not sustainable.
Yeah, sorry, John.
Can you give me the links so then I will just be the one that shares?
Yeah.
My last tweet.
You want to go to your last tweet? Now I can't even hear him talk.
All right, I'll drop off and come back on.
No, we love you. Don't. The problem is he owns the stream.
Yeah, it's still working though.
Is it?
Yeah.
Can he do it without?
Apparently. I mean, it's we're still on. It still says we're on air.
Well,
and I'm seeing myself on YouTube, so I think it's working.
All right, I'm going to share my screen then.
You think after 3 years this would be like foolproof now?
It's not awkward at all.
There we go.
Can you see my
screen? Yours just fine.
Share my screen with everyone, John.
All right. Wait, am I any better now?
Nope.
No, you still suck, John.
All right.
Oh, you mean the quality of your video?
There we go. Can you lock Scott? There we go.
Are we good? All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, look,
Scott, we could have started with you from the beginning anyhow. This is you.
Scrumptious.
So, yeah, Scott, you want to talk about this?
I wrote a blog post. So, Docker...
I think we're out of practice.
Docker for Windows, the Edge version, the kind of the Windows Insider Super Beta Alpha version of Docker for Windows, added a new feature that says Kubernetes support. Literally, you just check a box now, and you can turn on Kubernetes, which is ever so shiny because it allows you to do all kinds of cool stuff that you ordinarily couldn't do, like run Kubernetes easily on Windows. It's almost like Minikube, but easier. So I wanted to see how easy it would be to get ASP.NET running. You click Enable Kubernetes. I went and added the dashboard and a couple of things so I could get kind of a nice dashboard for Kubernetes locally here. Then I went in and I said .NET new Razor page. Took a standard 2-stage Docker build file here. So I probably am not using the exact perfect version of the runtime because I think I have 2.05 and I ended up using 2.0 or whatever. But what's nice about it is that I can do my build locally, Docker build, and then tag it. Actually, I need to update that because that should be :v1, and then that v1 goes there. And then I went and exposed it. I exposed port 80. So it's port 80 internally, and then it's 31756 externally. Y'all still there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You lost interest, apparently.
You broke up a few times on my end, but I don't know if it was me or you.
Yeah.
So.
And then there you go. So this is ASP.NET Core running in Kubernetes in Windows. And it was pretty slick, pretty easy to set up. So check it out.
Very cool.
Cool.
All right, next.
And honestly, the next one was one that you sent me as well. This was, a key thing here we've talked about, there's ASP.NET, there's two boilerplates. And there's, I think, ASP.NET MVC boilerplate, and this one's ASP.NET boilerplate. And this was somebody you talked to at NDC London. And we called them out like 2 years ago. I think we featured them, but it's pretty framework, and
yeah. So
that's underselling it. It's an amazing.
I appreciate that you said that, Damien. It's spend some time here, right? Yeah. So if you go and check out their templates, this is pretty amazing. So it's nice because it works on both ASP.NET MVC and it works on ASP.NET Core. You can go and pick whether or not you're going to target full framework or core, whether you're going to be multi-page with jQuery or single page with Angular. And then it will generate this template. Now, they'll give you a standard kind of a template, but if you pay them, then they'll give you this full-on thing called ASP.NET Zero, which is their production-ready startup template. But if you're going to be doing like big line of business, complicated apps, it is pretty slick.
Underselling it too. Like it's not just template; it's a full suite of modules.
It's like file new company.
It's a full suite of modules that solve a whole bunch of existing like things that you might have. It has like a user management system. It has like charting components and messaging, multi-tenancy built in from the core. It is a serious piece of kit.
They've got, and what's cool about it is that it's not just one kind of application. They build other apps on top of it. So like they've got a Stack Overflow clone, and they've got a line of business clone, and they've got a see, here's their Stack Overflow clone that's all written in their framework, and it takes care of all the animations and all the use of how the SPA works. All these things are live and online, so you can check them out at ASP.NET boilerplate. There's their simple task one. This one here is like a full event creation and registration application. The stuff that they include in their documentation is really amazing, and it also has been translated into lots of different languages. Particularly the thing I was impressed with was their use of multi-tenancy and their smartness around multi-tenancy, which is really nice for software as a service. So ASP.NET boilerplate, it is not something that you can look at in 10 minutes. You need to spend a day with it. It's pretty slick. Cool. All right.
Cool. So I got a bunch of, I'm not sure if well, I guess if you can hear me fine, that it all works.
We can hear you.
Why don't you mute your or turn off your camera so we can not waste your minimal bandwidth, the only 100 megabits that you have.
Fine. Cool. Done is what I mean to say. Adam Storr. So this is cool. Was looking into recently, was he registering IHTTP context accessor correctly? So that's how you get at HTTP context in ASP.NET Core. Originally,
hang on. I need to clarify that statement a little bit. It's how you get it at HTTP context when you are a service being activated by the DI container. Typically, in most places, you'll get to HTTP context because it's passed to you or it's on one of your base classes, right? If you're a controller, it's already there. It's already on there if you're in a page or in a view, or if you're in middleware, it's passed into you. This is specifically for when you have something that lives in the IOC container and it is registered as a scope service or a transient, and it wants to get access to the current request's context after activated a DI.
So paraphrasing that, it is in fact okay inside of a controller to go this .http context because you are getting the injected one.
It is preferred, yes.
So in previous versions of ASP.NET, HTTP context.current was considered harmful.
Here, but they're different things, right?
Ah, okay. Yeah, so what I was saying is the property HTTP context that's hanging off of controller in core, okay to use.
Yeah, because it's not a static. HTTP context.current is static.
Right, it is a transient that was already added.
It was magic. HTTP context.current was a magic thing that System Web tried to make work by way of all these background mechanics.
Right.
But we don't have statics in core. And so if you do need to be able to get to the context and you are not you don't get given a type that has it hanging off it already, you need to like pull it out of the ether. And that's what this thing is. Is you can get it out of the ether assuming you're activated from DI, but there are caveats. Nothing in the framework uses this by default. So you have to add this, which is what this is probably talking about, but you need to think very carefully about whether you want to use IHTTP context accessor. It is the lesser of the two patterns for getting at it. There's overhead.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go on, John.
Okay. So the thing in that post that's important is after, like, if you do need to inject it, then he was looking at, how should he register it?
I see.
What he found when he scrolled down was, okay, it's recommended to register as a singleton. Even better, there's an extend method.
Yes.
He found this is new in 2.1, and this is add HTTP accessor and it just registers as singleton. So you don't have to remember to register it as a singleton.
Right.
Which sounds cool to me.
Is John? I'm hearing his words
garbled.
being dropped. His words are garbled.
Yeah. Sorry, John.
Tell you what. Why don't we?
Well, I can just go through them with you.
Well, if I can't talk, I'd rather give them. Like I've spent a lot of time reading through them all. If you can't hear me, that doesn't make sense.
Try again. Try again.
Yeah.
All right.
You're just coming and going. That's all. Sorry. We're not trying to make you feel bad. We are succeeding.
No worries. But if we get you can't hear me, then let's just push them to next week. I don't mind having more next week. So this is a nice, just quick tip from Andrew Locke. Here he found when he was trying to include files external to his ASP.NET Core application, that if you scroll down a bit to the first thing, if you say add existing item, what it's going to do is actually copy it into your project. And this is a nice tip here that you can say add as link, and it will add a reference without copying it into your into the project folder, if that's what you want to do. And then, as he points out here, you can also do that separately. So if you don't want to change, if you want to include a file into your ASP.NET Core application without copying it in, changing it, then you can do this add as link.
Yeah, this isn't unique to ASP.NET Core, just so folks not understand. This is just a MS build sort of CS Purge thing.
And it's also fair to point out that this chevron here is something that is not super intuitive to a lot of people. And if you go File Open, you can actually click on the chevron, say Open As, and open a GIF as a binary file and get a hex editor. A lot of people just ignore that chevron, so that's a good reminder that chevron exists, period.
Also warning that if you add files as a link, anything that's attempting to enumerate files or find them without going through MS Build won't find it. So the thing you have to be aware of when you use this particular tip is that this registers the file with the CS proj, so that anything that says, please find me all the files in this project by asking MS Build for that information, it will give you that in the list. But if you have resolved the root path of the directory using like one of the runtime primitives, like the iContent root stuff, or like the content root provider that's given to you on the iHosting environment, it doesn't know that you've added stuff as a link, right? It doesn't go via MS Build. It just looks at the folder and just enumerates it using the file system. So you have to be wary of who's asking for it in order and understand, what's actually knows about where this file is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Role-based authorization in Razor pages.
Yeah, this one's cool. So basically what Hisham was saying is that there is not a convention for role-based authentication for Razor pages yet that he's aware of. So he went and wrote one up. So this is a convention. When you register a route, you can include, so it's just one or two page downs here. You can include a role-based registration in it.
Yeah, so everything now is basically, what's recommended is that you do policy-based authorization, which is how the new ASP.NET Core authorization system is built. And as you can see there, what he's simply doing is it says, I'm creating a policy called the require administrator role, and then that policy is made up of a series of rules, right? And the one rule that he's added here is that, this policy requires that you're in the role called administrator.
Okay.
So like he's basically creating role-based like before we had policy, we had roles.
Policy.
Yeah, which is fine, and that's perfectly reasonable. But there is a group of customers and people who have come from the existing sort of role-based way of doing authorization, and are like, well, where's my roles now? I want to do roles, and we're like, well, it's all policies now. You can recreate roles, you can do whatever you like. You can have a policy that's based on anything, like literally anything. But if you want to do the quote unquote simplest thing, then you can do something like this. And there are little places now where there's just a built-in first-class concept of a role. It's now always practically policy-driven. There's a couple of places where for Compat they added like some of the MVC stuff where there was still some role things, but because Razor Pages is new, I don't think it has those conventions.
Cool. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, then his registration is just that right there. So authorized page, and he just says that role, which is really just a policy.
Using an extension method.
Yep. Cool. That's it.
Cool.
All right. We haven't had. There's a few weeks to catch up on here. This is so Philip has updated his typed routing for ASP.NET Core with MVC2, or ASP.NET Core MVC2, I guess he wrote there. So this is strongly typed routing. So you can route directly to home controller in this case.
Mm.
Yeah, that's it. It's nice to see he's been working on this, I believe, since 2014. So it's nice to see he's continued to update this from WebAPI up through ASP.NET Core 1 and 2 now.
Interesting.
Cool. That's it. Okay, Scott. So what Scott did is he looked at increasing password hashing iterations in ASP.NET Core Identity. It's really just a one-liner setting an option. And the idea here is that, go ahead.
I was wondering why I would do that.
Yeah, well, so
if the recommendation is not already good. I mean, because we like to say that smart people make these decisions. So someone smart, that's not Damien, someone, I don't know, smarter.
Barry
would have decided that 10,000 is a good number, and he is now increasing it by a factor of 10.
This might be one of them. Was it the NIST? Well, the NIST says it recommends at least 10,000. So that's probably what we do by default because it's the cheapest and is the recommended least. But some people might go, I want more and I'm willing to pay the cost.
The perf cost.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's a trade-off exactly in perf versus and he talks some about this in here. There's a discussion on Twitter where people have talked about brute forcing using GPUs, using cloud GPUs, like and so if you have maybe a smaller user base and you lean more towards really, you prefer to turn the dial more towards security and are not concerned about but he does talk in here about, perf test it, make sure it works.
And that was interesting. My next question was, isn't that going to break stuff if you do it in the middle?
And
it sounds like iteration count is stored, which is interesting because that means you store it n times.
Yeah, but it's required to ensure that we can reverse.
It's per hash. So as he points out in here, if you increase it, it's never going to go back down.
Yeah.
So that's the note there. So you will continue to pay that perf cost in the future because that hash iteration has to happen when that person logs in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did not know that. Good information.
Yeah, interesting. Nice that there's a balanced default, but I can go and tweak it if I need to. So
2 parts here.
So we had Ryan come on and talk about HTTP client factory last week, and so Steve said, "Hey, I've been sitting on a post series since October. If it's locked down enough, I'd love to publish this." So he walks through a 2-part series here. So the first one is, what is it, how you'd use it, kind of basic overview stuff. He has source code out on GitHub. It's all, this is a nice in-depth walkthrough. And then part 2 of this is looking more at advanced usage. So doing things like a typed client, so I have a GitHub client specific, that kind of thing. Did I go away?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit, but
it's fine.
We still like you.
Cool.
I'm trolling. Yes. I'm just trolling Christian on the chat right now.
Cool. So this is named and typed clients. So you can go through, if you scroll down a bit here, he has like a GitHub typed client. So this is the named client in quotes, right? And then if you go down a bit more, it's injected as a typed client.
Good stuff. A lot of people looking forward to this. It's amazing how strong the reaction we had to demoing this in talking about it in London versus all the other stuff coming in 2.1. There's actually quite a lot of stuff. This was the one that, for whatever reason, got a lot more people sort of reacting to it. So,
I don't know if it's Java or what, but every time I hear factory in the context of software, I start to nod off. And so I told Ryan I was impressed with his presentation and with how cool the feature is, that I was still, on the edge of my seat and asking questions about a factory, 45 minutes into his demos. So, cool.
What do you think about this versus things like refit?
So that's interesting.
I think Ryan probably talked about that, or if he didn't, we actually made allowances. We talked about how refit would work with this. In fact, we made
underneath
design
it.
decisions specifically to support things like refit.
Yeah, and there was a demo. I believe there's a demo in the source code that, like a sample that Ryan had, that goes directly into using refit. So kind of like a nice layer on top of it. So cool.
Cool.
This is just a quick ASP.NET Core gotcha. Steve and probably some other people watching have updated projects from ASP.NET Core 1 to 2. And along the way, his migration stopped working. And he wasn't sure why. When he scrolled, and it looked like from the error message that he just had screwed up his connection string. What you'll see when you scroll down is that the project file includes a reference to the CLI tools. And the CLI tool was 1.0 and needed to be, he needed to update that to 2.0. So if you look, there it is down at the bottom. So if you scroll over to the right, it's hiding even in the blog post, version 1.0. So that's an important thing. And honestly, I don't know, Damien, if you've run into this or if this is something like, should the tools
So
update?
something didn't upgrade that?
Nothing will upgrade that. This is one of the gaps in the experience right now, is that project tools, as we've talked about a few times, there is literally no tooling experience. Ironically, there is no tools experience for tools. So there's no command line experience to add a tool. There's no command line experience to update a tool. There's no VS experience to add or update a tool. It's all manual. And in 2.1, we're adding global tools. And we will be changing a bunch of what are currently project tools in our tool set to be global tools. And that does have a first-class experience.
Okay.
Solves a bunch of problems.
I was going to say, well, couldn't the error tell me, hey, you need to upgrade your tools, but I'm on an old version. It doesn't know about
the point is
version.
nobody's looking.
No one's looking, dude. And like what error? Like nothing really knows. Like there's some of these project tools are fairly complicated. Like they load your application when you invoke them, and then they reach inside your app and call what they call the inside man or the inside thing, which is like there's a piece of EF that runs in your app and a piece that runs in the tool. And if they're not the same version, then they don't work. And then, certain ways we can detect that, and the other way, which is like forwards compatible, can be hard to detect. And so, or we've made allowances over time to try and make it fail better, right? But yeah, if you're trying to if you're using the 1.0 version of the tool and you reach into an app that is 2.0, like we would have made changes that the 1.0 tools would never have predicted, obviously. Like forwards compatibility is hard, if not impossible. And so it doesn't know how to fail. It can't fail in a nice way unless you design for it from the very beginning. So,
right. Cool. All right, that's that one there. Next one I leave is Damien Button talking about using the .NET Angular template with OIDC, Azure AD OIDC Implicit Flow.
Oh, that's a lot of acronyms.
I know, but this is one of those nice things of baking a few things together, right? So he's using Azure AD.
Yep.
He's using the OID Implicit Flow, and then he's put that together with the new Angular template.
And so I think you said he's put that together with the new Angular templates?
Yeah, he's using those together.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, that's it. There's a lot of screenshots here. It's,
do you know how that works? Like I've used Azure AD OIDC. This is what this site uses in order for us to do the admin screen. I have no idea what implicit flow is and how it relates to SPA apps. Do you have like a 30-second explanation?
Nope. I don't. I mean, honestly, it's complicated.
I should read the blog post. That's what it sounds like.
Yes and no. I mean, I read through the blog post. He talks about how to connect to it, but I did it. He into some here's some talks, but I didn't learn about what Azure or remind myself about Azure OID implicit flow. So yeah. I think that's a for further study.
Okay.
We actually have another link on that in a second. So the next one here, this is from Nate Barbetti. You may remember him. He did the little ASP.NET book. It was a 100-page ebook that we featured back in November timeframe. So Nate, his writing quality is always great. This one is nice. It's about it's using multi-tenant with a Postgres backend, and the Postgres backend in this case is hosted by Citus, which is a SaaS Postgres provider. So, so the things that this is a in-depth walkthrough. You'll see some things. I dug down into the end, and he's using SaaSkit is the kind of latency middleware thing that he's using. But this is kind of a step by step, create your database. It's all there, kind of thing. So, and he's building out a Stack Overflow style site and then doing it multi-tenant.
Interesting.
Yeah,
SaaSkit is worth looking at too.
It is. Yep.
It's a little old, but it's good.
It's cool. We've talked about them specifically, and then several of these, when I see multi-tenant, a lot of the time there's SaaSkit related stuff in there.
Which is interesting because
everyone is worried about your network, man.
Yeah.
Like
people are freaking out.
People think you have a virus. People think your wireless is being interfered with by a foreign government. Like, it's just like they think, they're like, please put a wired thing in, and like, anyway.
Are you on wireless?
We're gonna make you anxious.
I'm
Are you
on
on
a
wireless,
desktop
John?
computer. No, I'm not. I'm on a desktop computer with wired Ethernet direct to the wall, and I have no wireless card in this machine.
That's all.
There's no
lies.
VPN. There's no antivirus.
Clearly something.
Okay.
All right. We're running out of time. I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
I'm a little sleepy.
Well, let's go faster.
Well, I don't want
I'll
to
go
go
faster.
faster because then that downplays the work of the people at the end of the list. See, John?
True. That's true.
Yeah. So another from Nate. This is an OIDC debugger. So he actually, I don't know, Damien, you might learn more about that in here. Here he talks about a debugger that he built where you can go through and it'll help you construct your query. And then you can actually, like interactively debug and test it. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had to implement OAuth manually a few times over the past 5 years. And people do it slightly differently at each provider. It's kind of nice to help you.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. The next one is Rick Strahl. He did a talk at Dev Intersection on globalization, and his globalization thing there, what he's got here is neat. This is database based, so you can write stuff not using resx and all that. You can go directly to the database. He's built some really cool, like Rick Strahl level polish into it with a web-based editor. You can click import. It'll import your resx files. Then he's got built-in Bing and Google Translate automatic translation stuff to get you most of the way there, and then you tweak it. Yeah. And then if you decide you want to go back to resx files, you can export it back out and you're done. So this is kind of a, but in a lot of cases, as Rick talked about in his talk, you may want to run on a database because you're changing things on the fly, whatever it is, So this is a really in-depth, kind of system he's built out, and he's built it to work pretty cleanly with already in the box.
It looks like he builds on top of the new localization abstractions that we added in ASP.NET Core. So
see where he swaps them out here and then adds on top of it with his stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, really good
level
stuff.
of quality, and I've known Rick for 15 years. The level of quality and work that he puts into it is extraordinary because he ends up using it in projects that he consults on. Yeah. But he takes it to the next level by making it support, for everyone. He is a machine, and definitely someone who I'm sure would appreciate, pull requests and stars. So give it to him.
Yeah, one of the things we've seen people who have tried backing their localized, like their strings with a database. One of the things to look out for is when you get to a large number of strings or a large number of locales that you're translating into, you have to be very cognizant of the memory use, because if you do a somewhat naive implementation of the string localizer factory, you just got to load everything out of the database, and because they're all strings, that's a lot of memory that just gets loaded up, which is fine. But then if you want to be able to support, like, the thing you just said, John, which is like, oh, they're live updates. It was like, well, okay, when do you know to go back and check to reload them? And how do you get rid of the fact that you have strings that you don't want to use anymore? And how do you manage the memory around that? But if you want to do something a little more efficient, such that you load strings as they're demanded, for example, how do you do that efficiently? It can be quite challenging, as no matter what you're backing it with, whether it's a data. Also, the interface is not async. And so you can't load strings on demand through the iString localizer interface in line with a request. in a blocking fashion. That's an anti-pattern. And so you'd want to ensure that you're doing an initial upload while the application is still booting before the server starts accepting requests to get you to the point where you can serve the first request, and then have some way of loading. Either you load everything, you deal with the memory use, or you have a way of doing background loads on demand when people, ask for strings that you want that you haven't loaded yet. It can get quite complicated very quickly as the number of strings grows. We've had some teams internally that have started using this for the very large Microsoft sites, and this has been some of the feedback we've had from them that we're helping them solve. So
cool. Okay. Yeah, and I'd encourage dig through there. There's a lot of neat stuff in there, including stuff like JavaScript resource localization
cool.
and stuff like that. So not with it. This is what it says it is. It's from Daniel. It's a unit testing ASP.NET Core applications. You can see from the scroll bar there's a lot here. He talks through different testing options. All the way from like integration testing, unit testing, end to end, all that. He's got some nice diagrams in here explaining, here's what this means and here's what that level of testing is, and lots of code samples. So
this is like the chapter of a book.
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a
Yeah.
full thing.
Okay.
You'll see at the very end of it, there's a technical reviewer. I mean, this is a full thing. So
wow. Okay.
Grab a few cups of coffee and spend some time. That's a nice one.
It is a book.
The next one,
credit, to be clear.
The next one is a bit of a hack, but I thought it was interesting. This is from Fanny Reinders. He wanted to integrate with WhatsApp. They don't have a nice, clean API or any API, so he actually used Selenium Chrome driver and integrated with WhatsApp Web. So this is just interesting to see what he did, how he hooked it in here. So, and of course, source code is available in his repo. Yeah, that's about it.
Hang on, I want to understand this. Really? Okay. This reminds me about the time then 15 years ago when I automated Excel on the client side, on the server side.
Yeah, exactly. Like don't sneeze, or don't open it too fast because the timing will throw it off or whatever. The next ones are very quick, so that's fortunate. This is just a quick announcement post. Yay! So app service on
fresh
Linux
today.
Yeah, and
actually, yesterday night.
Funny story, Damien will appreciate this. I congratulated them and appreciated their work and told them that they need to change this to all caps.
They
now watch the
net wrong. They're spelling.
Now watch the all caps core and leave net.
No. It'll be all caps, but they're because they do it in a continuous integration way. It'll be done, soon.
That's good. So to be clear, I think you could, if you were using your own image, you are able to use. To get it running on app service prior, but if you just wanted to do the click, I want to run app service on Linux, then you have to pick from a container.
Yeah.
Then you weren't able to do it until today. So it's good that it's now available.
And it's supported.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So here's the next three.
All right. Yep. All right. Next three are quick. So this is just Glenn talking about 64-bit ASP.NET Core apps on app service.
Interesting. No one clearly copy pasted that from the Word.
I bet it has MSO styles in there. So he talks about how you can do it. You can deploy self-contained, you can deploy your own runtime. Of course, app service, which we just talked about.
Linux specifically. Well, this is all app service, to be clear. So this whole post is about running 64-bit ASP.NET Core on app service, but there's three different ways to run on app service now. There's the traditional running on Windows behind the scenes, sort of IIS focused, which is what most people use. Then there's the two container variants. And one is like app service for Linux, which is what John just talked about. And then there's app service for containers, which app service for Linux is built on. And so if you run on Linux, you're always 64-bit because we don't have a 32-bit runtime for Linux. It's always 64-bit. But the main one, which is what everyone uses, right mouse click, Visual Studio, publish, click, go, is all 32-bit on app service for ASP.NET Core. And even if you go into the portal and tick the box that says use 64-bit, it's still 32-bit, unless you do this. Now, we're looking to change that for 2.1. In fact, there's a thread that I'm getting emails on right now that keep coming up while I'm talking to you that is like what the plan is to get 64-bit on for ASP.NET Core 2.1. So,
cool. All right. Last two are really just prompts if Damien wants to talk about them. There's the meta package.
Oh, by the way,
and then there's
speaking of 64-bit and 32-bit, someone told me something interesting, and I have to dig into it. But did you know that there's a 64-bit task manager and a...
Oh, that sounds super familiar. So isn't the default one?
So I went and sent a hang to someone.
Yes.
And I did it by going to Task Manager.
Take a dump.
And taking a dump.
Yep.
Right click.
Yep.
Take a dump.
Yep.
Create dump file.
Yep.
And the gentleman said, well, this is a 64-bit dump. I'd like a 32-bit dump because the debugger team doesn't quite have 64-bit dumps of 32-bit processes.
Right.
So what it wants you to do is you have to go and run
from WoW64.
C/Windows syswow task manager.
Yep.
This is a different task manager.
It's the 32-bit one, and it will only list 32-bit processes. Is that right?
Well, and it also shows like suspended or not. Like it's the older taskman from earlier times. And then you can see here it says task manager 32-bit, right? Which is different from other task manager 64-bit.
Yes, in my view right now, I see task manager, but it's not labeled as 32-bit. I have processes that are, but it's not one.
Yeah. So then, if you're going to take a dump of devenv.exe, which is a 32-bit process, you would want to do that. So good information.
Very interesting.
Cool. Hey, look at this guy.
Oh, why are you putting this up for? This is early.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this in a few
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, let's talk about this then.
Well, let's just get right over it.
No,
what is this thing?
So both of these things. That's all right. So
both of these, I saw you tweet about them. I said, hey, this is neat. And if you just want to say, hey, we're going to have people talk.
I tweeted about them. I guess.
Well, hang on. What's going on? Should we talk about this or not talk
about
this?
Sure. No, let's talk about them.
22 hours ago. That's not enough time.
All right. So these are 2.1. So the context of these is with the upcoming 2.1 release. All right. So people are aware. So if people think back to when we released 2.0, we introduced a new meta package. Remember, a meta package is just a package of packages. And the default experience, you do file new ASP.NET Core on 2.0. When you're running on .NET Core, you will use Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.all will be your package reference. And that brings in the world, right? Brings in everything that we build, anything that we integrate with, like everything. Because all, right? Exactly. Including some Azure stuff. Like it actually starts spreading out pretty quickly. It brings in Redis, it brings in all types of stuff because we have some things that integrate with third-party things, right? And then when you publish, you don't take those with you by default because we had the runtime store and we delivered all the runtime assets for this package as part of the installation with the runtime store, if people remember. Now, this change that we're making in 2.1, ASP.NET Core.all will still be available. We will continue to produce .all for the life of the 2.x product, but we are changing the default for new projects in 2.1. We're going to change to this other meta package called Microsoft ASP.NET Core.app. And if that sounds familiar, it's because we have Microsoft NetCore.app, which is the name of the shared framework that .NET Core runs on, right? So if you ever look behind the guts of things, and I'm sure, Scott, you've given these talks, I've given these talks, and we show like what the app sits on top of. There's this folder called Microsoft.NetCore.app. There is a package that represents that is kind of implicit that you don't see, but it's behind the scenes. It was implicit in 1.0, but now it's not. So this is kind of the equivalent for ASP.NET Core. And the difference between all and app is effectively what it says there in the next paragraph, which is we have simply removed references to things that our team doesn't own or can't support as part of making the core experience work. And so it's less dependencies. It's not a lot. Like if you scroll down, it's that list. If whoever's in control of the screen, I don't know who's screening. Is that you, Scott?
This list here?
Yep. So it's that list plus anything they depend on. So for example, you can see there the sixth item is Microsoft. Oh, sorry, is it the fifth? The fifth item is Microsoft.extensions.caching.redis. That depends on StackExchange.redis, which we don't own. So we can't support that. Okay. If there's something happened and we had to issue a security fix for that, obviously we would work very closely with the StackExchange.redis team to make that happen. We can't force them to do anything. Okay. We just ask very nicely. And so we have removed things of that type from the default experience so that there is a cleaner understanding of, .app is the stuff that Microsoft sort of owns or has enough influence on to be able to support. And then everything else, if you want Redis, then you should add the Redis package because you wanted Redis, okay? Similar for Azure stuff. We don't own the Azure stuff. The Azure team does. Obviously, we work closely with them, but those things are also controlled by a different lifecycle and thus a different support policy. Like Azure libraries are tied to Azure services, and Azure services have a different support lifecycle to things like the .NET Framework or .NET Core or ASP.NET Core. So tying them all up in one package, which we try and draw a circle around to say this is supported, is a little confusing. And so we've tried to clean that up a little bit with this .app change. That's all it is. So when you create a new 2.1 app, it'll be Microsoft ASP.NET Core.app, and you won't have these dependencies. So if you want them, you'll need to add them manually. And if you're moving from 2.0 to 2.1, we would recommend that you change your .all reference to .app, and then you add back any of these. If you were actually using these APIs, you add them back, and it'll be very clear to you now that you have dependencies outside of sort of the core scope of the product. So that's all that change represents. What was the other one? COD. So COD is an...
Yeah, just...
Go on.
You tweeted that. Well, what is the name? What is that?
I don't even know the name. We come up with ridiculous code names for things. So COD, it has a K, right? Remember, the whole thing started as Project K, so we still come up with, we have Kestrel. Anyway, right. So COD is the project code name we use to describe all the features that we want to do to improve authoring web APIs. Please don't move those around.
I just wanted to see if I could.
I will go and remove your access to all of our repos. So these are the issues and tasks that we're using to track improvements to WebAPI.
Oh, am I in a private place right now?
No. Anyone who can see the MVC repo should be able to see this. Yep. They just won't be able to drag them around. But you have commit right. So
delete.
Right. So yeah. So this is things to do with WebAPI. So we're going to have Ryan come on and talk about this in a few weeks. Now, the stuff in the two left-hand columns won't happen as part of 2.1 because they haven't started yet, as you can see. But the stuff in the fourth column, which is done, all that stuff has been done for 2.1. Okay. So there's stuff here. We're thinking beyond 2.1. There's things that we want to continue to do to improve the experience of building and consuming web APIs built with ASP.NET Core. And so we've made some improvements in 2.1, and then we will build on top of those improvements in further releases, which is what the work in the first two columns is representing. You'll learn more about these over the coming weeks as we start talking more about them and blogging about them, and you'll be able to pick up bits, obviously, when we release a preview. You can try and pick up bits now, but I wouldn't encourage it. It's incredibly difficult. So yeah, so if you're interested in like web API stuff and you want to go do some low-level trawling through the issues and the code that changed, go and do so. There's some interesting stuff in here that's going to make things somewhat easier. We also talked about some of these things at the talk we did at NDT London last week. So when that video comes out in the next week or so, you can see some of that stuff as well.
Cool.
So, yeah. There was someone's asked, is there a complete list of what's included in the .app package? Yes.
Well, the list is those things minus those other things.
Yeah. So like if you just want, so the thing that makes it difficult is that there are transitive dependencies still. So there is what .app depends on. It's like its first level dependencies, and then there's what that depends on, right? And so to get a full flat list is kind of a little like is the deps file. You have to build something with it. Look at the deps file, and you'll see everything in there. We haven't actually just built a flat list. But if you go and look at the MyGet feeds, like the standard dev MyGet feeds that we have that anyone can look at, you can look at the .app package in there, and you can just open it and look at what it depends on, and then you can get an idea. But again, to your point, if you look at .all and then just remove the ones that is in that announcement, then you'll have what's in .app. Cool. So I guess
I need to make dinner now.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot to add today other than keep a lookout for the 2.1 stuff that's going to start coming soon. We will publish the schedule one way or another of the who we're going to have on the show to talk about these 2.1 features as they happen. There will be a blog post. You heard it here first. There will be a blog post later this week from the .NET team and the ASP.NET team to sort of launch the scope of 2.1 and the features that are in it. And I believe there's going to be a video published on Channel 9, which I'm not in. Dan is in, and Richard is in, and Scott Hunter is in, and where they kind of launched 2.1 conceptually. Like, here's all the things we're focused on for 2.1. There's some demos in that talk. I think it's about an hour long, and it'll be available on Channel 9 around the same time that the blog post goes live later this week. So yeah, that's all coming. It's all goodness. And then at some point, we'll be able to tell you when the first preview will be available. It's not today. It won't be by the end of this week. We're still working through figuring out when that will be, but I hope it's soon.
Ooh, I just remembered something totally unrelated to this entire show that I want to share as we go for the 12 people who are still here.
Yes.
It's okay with you?
118 people, but go for it.
How do I share my screen again?
The green, is it still a green button?
No, it's giving me like a new thing I've never seen before.
Oh, I have the green button on mine on the left.
Yeah, it's a green button with an arrow.
Dude, I'm totally serious. I click that button now, and it comes up with a dialogue I've never seen before.
Maybe because you edited that thing you shouldn't have on GitHub, and it has like some sort of.
I'm totally serious. It says Chrome wants to share your contents of the screen with Google Hangouts.
Ooh,
I've never seen this before.
Interesting. Okay.
Let me give you a tweet, Damien, if you wouldn't mind, and you can share it on my behalf.
Oh, okay.
Share that.
Okay. Hang on,
and then put that in another tab, and then share that, you schmuck.
So sorry, my quad call.
And now it's working. Hang on. Now Chrome is working. You suck. Okay. All right. So check this out. So can you see this? Last week I was at NDC, right? And then NDC London, and then I went to Prague for the weekend.
Yep.
Like you do. Apparently it's only a 2-hour flight. And I met with the team that won the Imagine Cup.
Yep.
This is a picture of not me in the room. Satya. So anyway, I went over there and I ended up writing a blog post here at the Imagine Cup blog and did a whole video. So they did a solution for diabetics and specifically type 1 diabetic kids. It's like this really cool NFC and Bluetooth low energy system. They designed this whole thing. So I went to hang out with them and they showed me their system. It is pretty darn amazing. It's got a whole cloud-based front end, cloud-based back end rather, and they explained it to me, and I got to demo it live in Prague. So I would encourage people to check that out. You can find it on my Twitter account or on the Microsoft Twitter account, which apparently I don't follow. There you go. Now I do. So anyway, yeah, really, totally fix that. So check that out because it was actually pretty slick.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was good. That was what I did last week.
I like it. I like it.
And we did they had like a whole camera crew. We did like a legit video. It's like a whole. You'll see this inspirational video at Build probably.
That's great.
There's me looking all.
Look at you. Looking pasty and young.
Chubby.
Look like you're traveling.
Yeah, they had me like blot my face, and they're like, "Yeah, you're really blotty." Anyway, it was good. Okay, thank you for letting me share that.
That's fantastic.
All right, let's end by making fun of John's internet.
Let's do that, and by doing.
I wonder if it's gone.
I'm going to send a screenshot.
It's so bad, dude.
I'm going to send a screenshot.
I know it's bad. What about? I'll reboot my router.
I don't think you get how bad it is, dude. I'm going to tweet you with a picture of how bad it is, so that you, I don't know, call Comcast.
You just blur. You did a blur effect.
On a serious
this is the biggest troll ever. You got ever come out.
For the people who are watching, we have discovered that since we changed doing this show on Hanselman's YouTube channel, right?
Yes, with my extraordinary
.NET Foundation channel, we've literally halved our viewership. All right. So what we know is Scott is famous. We all knew that. But the fact that we're now driving this through a different identity has actually had a huge impact on our viewership. So we're going to try and fix that. I think, Scott, you're going to put a short video on your channel.
Which is going to do jack nothing to it.
No, it will, because everybody that's subscribed will now get a video.
No, it will
they'll get a video and they'll go,
I am going to ask all the 117 people watching now live and the 2,000 that will watch in the next week instead of the 5,000 that used to watch in a week. Please ensure that when you tell other people, don't assume that other people know about the show. And if you find any value out of the show, please share it with other people. I have people come up at the end of the workshop every time I teach it saying, I'm so glad you do the show. So in a group of 30, there's always a random like 2 or 3 who have watched the show. And I don't know whether that means that they're more likely to buy the workshop because they've seen the show, or whether it's a representation of 10% of all the people watch the show, which means we only have 50,000 customers, which would be a problem. So I please try and
encourage. This is a very long way of saying subscribe
and get others to subscribe, and make sure they don't subscribe to Scott because it won't help us. You need to
Can we update the live.asp.net when it's off air to have a big fat subscribe button?
Yes, that's a very good question. That's a very good suggestion.
That would move the needle more than me making a video.
That's a very good suggestion. We should do that. And we're also going to try and do some more cross promotion of the show on Facebook and the ASP.NET website and Twitter and those type of things as well to try and get our viewership up. We hope the new guest stuff that we're going to do is going to be good for people and give you a bit more varied content, which I hope people like as well. So any other suggestions for the show, please do let us know.
Cool. Do you want pull requests, or how do you want the?
No, don't.
You won't let anyone touch
Don't
live.html.
send me code. I won't even be allowed to do it soon, and so
Well, do it quick while you still can.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Cool. I have a button. The button should
Zoom out.
lock on me.
Lock him in. Lock him in there, Potato Man.
Oh, you lost. Yeah,
I don't think he's enjoying this as much as we are. Somehow I feel his feelings.
I'm gonna try and reboot the. I'd feel happier, honestly, if when I did the speed check, it was like 10 megabits. I'd be like, oh well, there you go.
We should still be enough.
120. I know.
You tweeted. All right, am I locked yet? I'm still not locked.
No, you're not. Okay, go ahead.
No, here, let me lock you.
Dramatic zoom out. It's so dramatic. I got a potato.
What do you have against potatoes?